This is issue 569 of PIlote. It's the October 1970 edition of the magazine. And I was going to do a full walkthrough of the entire contents. There's not a whole lot I can say about a lot of it because a lot of it depends upon your knowledge of French politics of the day, I'm sure, and French celebrities and that kind of thing. I don't have it in me to do that much research. But I saw the story that this cover is all about, which is basically the bridge to the stars, I guess, or the bridge of the stars. And I wanted to show you what it looks like, but we'll flip through a few pages here and see what's going on. You can take a look at these pages as I go through. There's definitely a feeling in a lot of this of a feeling of Mad Magazine influencing things. You can see there's probably some of these are caricatures of French actors or something. I don't know. I mean, it says this is about television. Bonanza, maybe. They're probably doing a Bonanza riff here. There's some sort of pseudo-political or political things going on. This was, after May 1968, and the artists were trying to assert more control. They wanted to do more challenging work. They wanted to do more political work, and they sort of got their way over the course of time. René Goscinny was still technically, I believe, the director of the magazine, but not necessarily the editor-in-chief. But he was pretty much on his way out, I have to think, at this point. Here is Asterix. This is Asterix in Switzerland, which you can see, this was the story, of course, which most famously involved a cheese orgy, which the less said, the better. But it looks really good on these pages. The paper is a little bit slicker than some earlier issues of PIlote I had looked at recently from 5 or 6 years back even. The coloring comes out pretty good here. Some real gradients with the light giving out the light from the flames here up against the ceiling and the wall. Everything looks really good, very readable. Much better than newsprint, that's for sure. So that works out pretty good. Here is Lieutenant Blueberry, which, for those of you not familiar, drawn by Jean Giraud, also known as Mobius. This is his Western that someday, hopefully, we will see translated into English. Fingers crossed. Let's hope that happens someday. This series of Philemon, whatever, I don't know what it is. It's just kind of ugly to me. But maybe if you were there at the time, it made more sense. Lucky Luke was in the pages of PIlote at that time. René Goscinny was writing it. He had successfully brought it over from Spirou. Eventually it would return to Spirou, but for a while there, it was in PIlote Journal magazine there. And then we get to the story, starting, it looks like, in the centerfold of the issue. This is Philippe, I hope I can pronounce this, Philippe Druillet, who is one of the founders of Heavy Metal magazine, which, yeah, obviously, no duh. Just look at this thing. This is insane. Look at this double-page spread. Look at every brick in the wall being drawn in. These crazy faces with the hands to the faces, the epicness, the scale, the crazy 1960s, 1970s lettering. I haven't gone through the whole process of translating this or anything, but just visually looking at it, it is something else, all right. Not sure what that is, but it is something else. And I'm making this entire video basically just so you can take a look at a few of these pages because they're awesome. And I don't know if they've ever been translated into English or if they're available anywhere. It's very much of its time. It's very much a creative piece of work and completely unreadable in some cases. I mean, that lettering, obviously all hand-done lettering. This is 1970 after all, but wow, that's tricky. And then, of course, you have all this trippy checkerboard pattern. I can't imagine how this was even created back then. It's not like they had computers to do that. I don't know if they had pre-printed sheets that look like that kind of thing, or if he had to actually hand draw that, or there's some way he could warp a checkerboard piece of paper into looking like that. I don't know. Then you have this big explosion at the end, the dramatic upshot of this castle-like facade with the dragon in front of it. It is really cool looking, I have to admit. I'm not much into the aesthetic of the era, the late 60s, early 70s, but this thing just stopped me dead in my tracks, and I wanted to make this video to share it with you all. I think that's the end. Yeah, that's the end. Then we go back to the stuff that I enjoy more, like Achille Talon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know. He was a regular in PIlote for a long time. I just like the more commercial stuff. I like the big nose cartoony stuff. Adidas, you have an ad for Adidas there. because they were so cool. Then you have some of the ongoing sort of soap operatic planes and submarines and flying and boats and stuff that they did back then. I'm not sure if this is, I think it's a separate, I think this is a continuation of the previous one. You got a little Porsche 917, it looks like a remote control car maybe? Or maybe just a model car. Ads for pens. You'll see lots of ads in magazines of this era for things like pens and cameras, all the sorts of things you don't see these days. Rubric-a-brac, this is the one thing that Gottlieb did that I really wish they would translate into English somehow. I don't know how much of it would work today. I think most of it would, to be honest, but I guess there's not enough demand for it, and it'll probably never happen. So I'm just going to have to take these issues of PIlote and translate them myself, I guess. Not so fast, Dan. Someday I'll get there. I figure if another 2,000 or 3,000 days of Duolingo, I might finally figure it out. There was collected editions of Rubric-a-brac back then even. These times were hard. This kind of reminds me of Don Martin almost. Look at that bent nose there. Doesn't quite have the curly toes or the crazy sound effects to be Don Martin, but there you go. Then you have some text pages. The last miniskirt, I'm not going to ask. Some pictures of famous people, cars, watches, the kind of things you wouldn't get today because of the internet, but back then, this was how you had access to this kind of thing. You'd have a magazine come to your doorstep. There's a full page something or other, Tintin. I like the fact that the other magazines that were technically in competition with PIlote and Spirou and all that were advertising here in the very same magazine as PIlote. It would have ads for Tintin. They also want to know if you've bought the Super Pocket PIlote number 8. That was a smaller, almost manga-sized edition of PIlote. I have one of those. I'll have to do a video about those someday. They had some original stories in there which are worth reading. But it's interesting to see they had different formats of PIlote for, I guess, for newsstands or for supermarkets maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but it didn't last that long. But it's interesting to see that they exist. And then on the back cover, last thing to show you here, coming up in the next issue, Valerian starts with The Land Without Stars. Is that the right title? I think it's the third book in Valerian. They got that whole cover painting right there on the back cover. And then that's the cover story to the next issue, which we're not going to talk about. We're just going to stick with that one. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you because I saw this and I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw that double-page spread. That's something, huh? So that is just a random issue of PIlote Journal magazine. We'll have more to come, I'm sure, in the weeks and months ahead. Thanks for watching.